Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Maria, and in today's video I'm going to be showing you 10 ways to fill your sketchbook. Okay, so first off is line drawings. I started by going to unsplash.com and saving a bunch of reference photos, and then I used those to draw a bunch of faces. I tried as much as possible to use a single line, but then I realized it's not possible, at least not for me at this point, to be doing the whole drawing with just one line. So basically I just tried to use one continuous line as long as I could, and once I was no longer able to, I started on another line. I also found that it's easier to do this if you don't overthink. The more you think, the more frazzled you get, the more you end up erasing. But yeah, that's what I ended up with after about 15 minutes. Alright, number 2 is figure drawing. For this, I use this website called Line of Action. These are the settings that I used. Basically, this website gives you a bunch of figures that you can draw. It gives you like little time intervals that you can select from. I chose 10-minute intervals for each figure, and I ended up doing about 6 figures in an hour. Again, like with the faces and the line drawings, it's a lot easier to do this if you don't overthink it. I don't have a lot of figure drawing experience, and it really shows when I draw full bodies. They end up looking a little stiff, kind of like dolls. And one way to draw more natural looking bodies and poses is to practice figure drawings like this with time limits. So hopefully if I keep doing this, over time I'll be able to capture as much of the lines and the shapes in a human body as I possibly can in a given amount of time. The time limit can feel really frustrating and limiting initially, but by the time I got to my about 4th or 5th body, by then I was definitely getting the hang of it. The 6th one was probably the easiest to draw. I actually quite enjoyed drawing this little barely there shape, but yeah, there's the final drawing. Number 3 is drawing backgrounds. This one was a painfully long process. I ended up leaving quite a bit out of these 2 pages because I was drawing lines over and over again, and I was watching myself draw the lines over and over again in the recording, and I was like, man, that is not fun to watch. So I actually ended up cutting out quite a bit of the footage from these 2 drawings that I did here. But background practice is very challenging, it's very time consuming, but it feels so good when you finish. It's like a painful marathon. You start out, you feel good, and then midway through you're just ready to call it quits, and then you get the end and you're like, yes, I did it. That's exactly how background drawing felt. One of the reasons I really want to practice drawing more backgrounds is because I find that it immediately makes a picture so much more interesting. I draw characters a lot, I draw people a lot, sometimes I draw animals, but backgrounds I avoided like the plague because they're so darn time consuming. But the time that you put into it definitely makes for a more interesting result. I also forgot to mention earlier, this particular background and the next one I'm about to draw are both from Pexels.com, which is another website I frequently use for reference photos. I try to avoid using Pinterest for reference pictures because it's impossible to tell what pictures are free to use and what pictures are not. People just post things from all over the internet on Pinterest, and the last thing I want to do is take someone's work and not even realize I took someone else's work. So Unsplash.com and Pexels.com are my best friends when I need references. Anyways, this was quite the exercise. Don't think I'll be repeating it anytime soon, but yeah. Alright, so that's done. Now it's on to number 4. Okay, so for number 4, I've got drawing a character from a TV show, a movie, a cartoon that you really like. This character is Gojo Satoru from an anime called Jujutsu Kaisen, which I watched recently and quite enjoyed. This is one of several really great animes that have come out in the last couple of years. If you don't want to draw a character, you could also draw or paint a specific scene or a couple of screen caps, which can be really great too because you get to practice not just drawing a character, but sceneries and landscapes as well. Right, on to number 5 we go. Okay, number 5 is using various materials to create an image. This is pretty self-explanatory. I used some dried flower petals that I saved and then assembled them into butterflies and drew these lines to look like a real butterfly. It turned out okay, but later on I made the mistake of spraying with Mod Podge and I screwed it up. I shouldn't have done that. But you live and learn, and that's the nice thing about experimenting with different types of materials. There's so many ways in which you can incorporate them into your artwork, and you never know what kind of things you might end up creating. Alright, so number 6 is illustrating a song. For this purpose, I chose the Snowman song from Sia. I know Christmas is over, but every now and then this song comes and gets stuck in my head, and that's it. It's stuck in my head. And so when I was doing this video, this song was playing in my head. and I decided to, you know what, I'm gonna draw this song. So this one was quite fun to draw. I started by drawing her out in the way that she looked in the promo photos. The whole look and even the video is so freaking charming that I decided to not just draw her, but also a part of the video itself. Anyways, I drew her on a separate piece of paper, and once that was done, I ended up outlining her with a black pen. After that, I cut out the figure and wrote out the lyrics as much as I could fit onto the piece of paper. And after that, I glued her onto the lyrics. I ended up covering a part of it, but that's okay. I also lifted the edges a little bit because I didn't want it to be completely flat. I kind of wanted it to look like those little greeting cards where there's a picture on the inside that kind of sticks up a little bit. So that's what I did here. Once that dried, I used my Artex Jelly Gouache paints to paint in the red side and then the green side of the picture. These paints are phenomenal. Just the tiniest bit goes a long way, and the colors are so saturated. So ever since I got these are pretty much the only paints I've been using almost religiously. My dollar store paints, the poor dollar store paints. Alright, so on the other side, like I mentioned earlier, I decided to draw a portion of the music video. The video looked kind of like a children's animation. It reminds me of Pingu. I don't know if you know what Pingu is, but Pingu is a show I used to watch when I was a kid, and it reminds me so much of this song. Anyways, that's the sort of feeling I was trying to capture in this picture. I quite enjoyed this. I think I'd love to paint some more songs in the future. This is a good way to get creative juices flowing. Alright, number 7 is painting landscapes. So I thought I'd do some landscapes because they're super relaxing, but I miscalculated. Landscapes are relaxing for me when they don't include clouds. So here I painted these trees, which I shouldn't have because in the background there's clouds rolling in, and I should have painted the clouds first then the trees, but I did not think that through, and so I had to repaint these trees. I messed up on the clouds. I ended up making them too dark, so I had to go back in, lighten them, redraw the trees, add in some more trees, and then the foreground ended up being too high by accident. So suffice it to say, painting clouds, oof. I think I definitely need to watch some YouTube videos on how to properly paint clouds because I'm sure there's a technique, I just don't know what it is. So I decided to stick with the hilly mountainy theme, and I painted this green meadow. This one, unlike the other one, was quite relaxing and fun to draw and paint. Unfortunately, I didn't record part of it because I forgot to press the record button, but here's what I managed to salvage of the process. Oh no, it's ripping my paper. Why are you ripping my paper? Oh no. Here's the final product, and let us move on to number 8. Alright, tip number 8 is drawing something you're not good at. You're specifically picking something you know you're not very good at, that you know you don't like to do, that you know, that one part that you sort of just leave because you don't like doing it. Hands always used to be one of those things for me that I would, you know, draw the entire body and I would just sort of leave the hands, or I would tuck the arms behind the back because I just didn't want to draw them. So, you know, now that I have a little more time to draw and practice drawing different things, I'm trying to put that time into improving the things that I know I'm not very good at. And for me, this is one of those things. One of the reasons I'm so averse to drawing hands is because if they don't turn out just right, they always end up looking like claws. So I had to keep drawing some of these digits over and over again to get them to look like fingers and not something else. So once I did that, I was determined to make this as extra as possible, which is how it ended up looking like this. Okay, tip number 9 is to draw loved ones. So this includes family members, friends, or pets, or anyone else that you care about, or anything else that you care about that you want to sort of capture onto a piece of paper. For me, it's my cat. Although he turned up looking like some other cat and not mine, but I decided to draw my cat, and I decided to draw my shared custody cat. My shared custody cat is the cat that belongs to my neighbor, but this cat comes and visits us as it pleases and goes as it pleases, so now it's our shared custody cat. This has been going on for years, and we just keep thinking to ourselves, what's gonna happen if one of our families move? Like, this cat's gonna cry in a corner. But yeah, that's number 9. My final tip is to draw about an issue you really care about. I decided to recreate Jean-Michel Basquiat's warrior painting. For those who don't know Jean-Michel Basquiat, he was an African-American artist, and a lot of his work tended to sort of reflect his experiences and dealt with the socioeconomic conditions at the time that he was alive. And as it turns out, many of those socioeconomic issues still exist today. If you like exploring the works of different artists, I definitely recommend checking his work out. He tended to use many different mediums and also sort of mix words and images in his paintings. So I reworked his painting a little bit to reflect some of the more serious issues that women face in Canadian society today, because, I live in Canada. And at this point in time, there seems to be a bit of a reckoning. Many women and girls are speaking out about the injustices and gender-based discrimination, the assaults, the violence that women face. And I was thinking about how some of those things could be represented in a work of art. So that's why I created this particular painting. And then I used the open spaces to record some statistics regarding the violence and the abuse that women and girls mainly encounter. Most of these statistics are compiled from Statistics Canada. Some of them are from other sources. But what's really interesting is how fired up I was while I was doing this. I think you will find, especially if you're struggling to figure out what to draw, you're not sure what direction you want to take your art, I think you'll be amazed to see how quickly ideas come to you and how determined you are to capture those ideas on paper, on a panel, on canvas. So I definitely recommend, you think about what issues matter to you, what subjects you want to speak on, raise awareness about, and see what kind of things you come up with. Anyways, that is pretty much it for this video. Before I go, I just thought I'd do a quick little sketchbook tour video. I can't wait to finish this entire thing. I've had this for so many years, and hopefully I'll be able to finish it soon and then do a full-fledged sketchbook tour. If you've made it to this point, I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and I will hopefully catch you in the next video. Bye!